As a woman-owned executive search firm, MarketPro has always found it's important when we're conducting marketing executive searches to have a diverse slate of candidates that includes female as well as candidates who are diverse, and making sure that across the board we have top talent presented. There's a lot of information right now out there around the wage gap. And the reason there's a lot of information out there is it's a real thing and it's happening within corporate America. The question is how much and what do we do about it? So depending on what statistics you read or believe, you will hear that women make 20% less than men, or you could hear that they make 1.6% less than men. And so where does the truth lie? And the reality is it's somewhere in between, right? What we do know is that it's not possibly 20%. While in a vacuum that number may work, it doesn't take into account the fact that women tend to go into jobs that are lower paying at a much higher rate than men do, be that teaching or nursing or other such professions. So if you're comparing women in like jobs to men, those numbers now become very different. And it tends to be in that 1.5 to 7% range that we believe on a day-to-day basis is the general wage gap. Now the good news is that we're trending in the right direction. That's way better than it was 10 years ago, which is better than it was 20 years ago. But the reality is we don't want there to be a gap, right? We want people to be paid appropriately based on their skills, background, and experience, regardless of anything else. So now the question becomes, what do we do about it? And how does it work its way out in the real world? And what we tend to find is that although the gap may be small from percentage terms, we find that it's on a case-by-case basis possibly significant, and that's really where we're trying to solve the problem. So we actually found yesterday that we were presenting a candidate who was a man who was significantly below market. And we find from time to time that candidates are in that space, and 9 times out of 10 we find that it is a woman, it is a female candidate that is below market. So now the question becomes, how do we solve that and what's the right thing to do? You've seen recently that government's gotten involved and now they're saying, we're not going to allow you to ask certain questions about salary history. And the reality is government got involved because corporate America wasn't viewed as doing enough. And it always is a little worrisome if government gets involved because it's not a very efficient tool. So we'll see over time if that was a good idea or a bad idea. At this point in time, I would say we don't have enough data. But what we're finding is that people who sit in the chair that I sit from an executive recruiting perspective and people that sit on the other side from an HR perspective are the people who are empowered the most to do something about it. And what I love about working with smart people on the HR side is they generally really care about doing the right thing. And now it's a question of how do we work that within the organization. We find that most of the time when we talk to female candidates, they're paid fairly relative to their male counterparts. But when they're not, it's really important to have a partner on your client side from an HR perspective who's engaged in the process and sees themselves as able to fix it. And we've had really good success with that. And what we find is that HR really understands the culture of their organization. HR really understands how to get things done inside that. And it's important for HR people inside of big organizations to take this on as something that's important. And it's important because A, you're solving a problem and you're helping the person get to what's the right wage for their experience and skills. But even more importantly, the loyalty you're getting from that employee when you help them pays dividends and a return on investment for the organization.